Welcome everyone. Join me as I share with you my top 10 albums of the 90s. Cheers, it's Hannah the Omaha Introvert. Now, I'm a child of the 80s and 90s. I am a huge fan of the 90s. The pop culture, AOL, pre-cell phones for most people. Yeah, it was pretty fab. And because I love the music and the bands from the 90s, I decided to come up with a list of my top 10 albums. A couple of things before we dive right in, just so I can lay the groundwork here. As with any list I do, it's subjective. The albums on my list are there because I listen to them a lot. They are etched into my music-loving soul forever, and this won't be your list. A lot of these were in the mainstream, so you will recognize them. Some others may be a little bit more obscure. Feel free to share your list down below in the comments section. I would love to hear from you. I have no rap, country, or metal on this list. It's primarily alternative rock with some shoegaze, power pop, trip hop thrown in for good measure, so that kind of stuff. And I'm also going to start with my number one favorite album of the 90s, kind of like what I did with my top 10 best punk albums list. And by the way, my top 3 albums can be considered interchangeable depending on the day. So those are my babies, and let's just start with what I consider the ultimate most wonderful record of this decade. So my number one would have to be Smashing Pumpkins with Siamese Dream. Oh, this is a lovely slice of fuzzy guitar heaven with Billy Corgan's sometimes whiny but very tolerable and unique vocals. And I just have to show this guitar pedal because, you know, this is where it's at. This is the Big Muff Electro Harmonics. I think this model came out a couple years ago, and I just had to get it. So yeah, if you want to emulate that sound, this pedal's the way to go. So 90s Pumpkins albums are, to me, beyond excellent, especially their first 3. And honestly, I probably could have gone with any of those for my top 10, but today this is the winner. This is noisy with some mellow, introspective moments. It's sometimes lumped in the grunge category, but I don't consider it grunge. The dreaminess of this kind of disqualifies it from being strictly grunge, in my opinion. It has one of the best openers of any record with Cherub Rock. Like, the first 5 songs on the album are just fire. The energy, the hooks. Then Disarm comes along as a 6th track and just kind of slows things down. And also Soma. Then it gets a little more rowdy and rockin' again. So my favorite songs are Hummer, Rocket, Soma, Mayonnaise, and Luna. Like, those guitars. It's all about the guitars. I love the guitar sound. It's like kind of a comfort thing. I know others say it's kind of like a warm blanket, and that's true. So whether it's just the fuzz tone or the dueling, sprawling guitar work, it's just simply stunning. And I believe Billy Corgan played most of the guitar parts and bass parts on this album himself, which did cause tensions within the band, but how about Butch Vig as producer? Like, this is 10 out of 10. And I have like 2 CD versions of this as well. This is the 2011 reissue, I believe. So yeah, that's my number one pick of the 90s. Moving on with my second favorite, and again, this could be my number one on a different day, but for the sake of this video, it's number 2. So we have My Bloody Valentine with Loveless. And obviously my first pick, Siamese Dream, was massively influenced by this album. This is the pinnacle of shoegaze, folks, right here. Like, after this, there's only emulators, which is fine, but this, in my opinion, is the blueprint. This record sounds like it came from another world, and if you're familiar with it, you know what I mean. It's just unlike anything else. So I've got this original UK issue. It's on Creation, and I would say this is probably a VG copy, but I'm very lucky and thankful to have an original. And also, I picked up one of these analog cut versions from this one I got last year, but I think they first started doing these in like 2018, and it's a gatefold. It sounds amazing. So you may still be able to pick this up on the website. I'm not entirely sure about that. Anyway, the recording process for this was insane. I think it took like 2 years to finish. Kevin Shields was a perfectionist, and I'm glad he was, even though it nearly bankrupted Alan McGee's Creation Records label. So that's kind of, it shows you like how anal he was about the whole process. The vibrato and tremolo used on the guitars, it's truly breathtaking. It's like candy for the ears. Such a big wall of sound that you can just get lost in. And Belinda Butcher's sweet and airy vocals layered on top, it's just heaven. And you can't understand what she's singing most of the time, but that's the trademark of shoegaze. So this is a tapestry of warm guitar fuzz and gorgeous vocals. If you've only listened to it once and you think it's nothing more than noise, that's a bit sad. There's an incredible amount of detail that went into this album. I would say my favorite songs would be To Hear Knows When, Comin' Alone, What You Want, and Soon. But I mean, from front to back, this is just a classic record and I love it so much. So that's my number 2. Number 3, we have Depeche Mode with Songs of Faith and Devotion. I think this is from '93. I did a Depeche Mode album ranking video years ago, and I'll leave a link to it up above if you want to check it out. It still remains my favorite album by them. And this album is more spiritual than any of their others, and I don't quite know if that's the reason I love it the most. It could be. So this is the album after Violator, and I do have Violator displayed over there above my noggin. Also a masterpiece album, but I chose this one. And it opens with the song I Feel You. Immediately you're like, whoa. It's so big and in your face. A terrific opener. And then it goes into Walking in My Shoes, which is my second favorite track off of the album. That's like a lyrical high point. And I also just love the atmospheric feel of this record, and it's kind of haunting throughout. Dave Gahan gives a strong vocal performance on this record, really. Like, the songs just kind of blend in together. There's a strong cohesion with the themes, lyrics, mood, and sounds. I love the gospel feel of Condemnation, but my top track is In Your Room, for sure. I love the chorus so much on that. You know, when Dave sings, I'm hanging on your words, living on your breath, feeling with your skin, will I always be here? That just gets me. And I love when Martin Gore also takes the lead with songs with his vocals. So on this one, I love his vocals on One Caress. I think that's an underrated track. Then you get the closer with Higher Love, and it's just perfect. This record just takes me to another realm. It's beautiful, and that's my number 3 pick of the 90s, Depeche Mode Songs of Faith and Devotion. Moving on with number 4, we have Veruca Salt with their debut album American Thighs, which came out in '94. This may be a bit unconventional for a top 10 pick, but I have such a deep love for this band, and I just shared this on Instagram last week. The first album I heard from them was 8 Arms to Hold You. I don't know if you can see it. I do have it displayed over here. Right there. That was my first introduction to them, and I also love that album to pieces, but for this video, we're going with American Thighs because I'm feeling it this week. So this record just stands above so many other records for me in the alternative post-grunge scene because of the beautiful vocals shared between Nina Gordon and Louise Post. They were one of the only bands in that decade who were harmonizing. And it was like, here's 2 chicks who can play guitars, and really well, by the way. And their beautiful vocals and harmonies are just icing on the cake for me. So you all probably know the song Seether. That was like their big hit. I think they also had minor hits with All Hail Me and Number One Blind, which are also very good. But my favorite song is Wolf, and that's the last track on side 1. I believe it is about Louise Post's cat who fell out of a window. But the vocal harmonies at the end just leave me in awe every time. I believe they played it live when I saw them on their reunion tour back in 2014. And it's pure magic when they sing together. I wanted to be like Nina and Louise in a band making music like this when I was in high school. Of course, that never happened. But this album is just pure nostalgia for me. I also love Forsythia, Celebrate You, Victrola. This is a classic for me, and this is a 2014 reissue, by the way. I don't have an original, sadly. This is my number 5 pick, Oasis with their debut, Definitely Maybe. And I love What's the Story, Morning Glory as well, but as for a whole album, I love this one. Like, this is my pick. This is a record brimming with strong melodies. I love Liam Gallagher's, like, he has one of my favorite voices in rock. The swagger, the F-off attitude. Live Forever is probably one of the songs I've played most in my life. And this record still sounds fresh and relevant today. There's really strong drumming, Noel's soaring guitars, Cigarettes and Alcohol kind of has a bluesy, dirty, Stonesy vibe with the guitars. They just knock it out of the park with this, really. And they were not just a Beatles knockoff like some people claim. Far from it. I really love them and other British bands from this decade. So my favorite songs are Shaker Maker, Live Forever, Columbia, Supersonic, and Slide Away. Number 6, we've got Liz Phair, Exile and Guyville, which is her debut. This is an astonishing record. It deserves all the praise. It's a slice of lo-fi goodness, and all 18 tracks have something to say. It's sexual, it's confident, it covers breakups, it's cynical. I think some people accuse it as being a vulgar album, and I understand it may be difficult for some people to listen to, but you have to get beyond that. This is like the female perspective in a man's world, and it's really just some incredible songwriting on this, and I think Brad Wood produced it, which was an excellent choice. A very forward record for the early 90s, pretty groundbreaking if you think about it. So my favorite songs are 6 Feet 1, Never Said, Mesmerizing, Divorce Song, and Johnny Sunshine. And this is the record that came in this box set that I got a few years ago. It's called Girly Sound to Guyville. So it includes like a booklet and just a bunch of records with her demos on it. This is so good. I remember downloading her Girly Sound demos like back in the Napster days and just like listening to them over and over again. So you really get early sketches of the Exile and Guyville songs with her demos, and I really recommend those. So if you ever come across this, either on vinyl or CD, I would grab it. We got another CD because I would love this on vinyl, but we just need a reissue of it. So this is Jellyfish, my number 7, with Spilt Milk, their second album. This is a brilliant power pop record of the 90s, and yeah, it's really a shame that we didn't get more from this band. This is a very ambitious album. It sounds big, the production is over the top. This is like if the Beach Boys and Queen had a baby in the 90s. Like, this would be it. I also hear the Beatles and ELO influences, but that being said, this is one of a kind. There's a video on YouTube with Roger Joseph Manning Jr. discussing the making of this record, and I highly recommend that video. I'll leave a link down below if I can find it. But I watched it last year, and it's very worth viewing. The recording process was very complex. It opens with kind of like a mystical and magical Queen vibe with the song Hush. Then it just bursts into joining a fan club, which is kind of proggy and theatrical. But my favorite moment on this album is the end of Sabrina, Paste, and Play-Doh, where there's like these very Beach Boys like harmonies. Oh, it's so utterly perfect. And my mood is instantly uplifted when I play this. It's just a stunning achievement. Wouldn't it be amazing if Jellyfish reunited? But that's wishful thinking, I know. So I can't recommend this enough. Seriously, you'll be taken on a magical journey. It's a fun record. So Jellyfish, that's my number 7 pick. And my last CD I have to show, because again, if you want an original of this, expect to pay hundreds of dollars. So we have IDAHO. And this is probably my most obscure pick out of the 10. So this is their debut album called Year After Year. And yeah, many people won't know about this, which is a shame, but IDAHO are considered a slowcore or sadcore band. So other 90s bands in that category would be Red House Painters, Codeine, Low, American Music Club. IDAHO are still around, and I saw them last year. live. They have been working on a new album, and there is a box set of their Caroline era stuff of the 90s, so this included, which will be coming out soon. I am so looking forward to that. So anyway, this is one of the heavier albums in their catalog, and it's quite a moody album with layered guitars. It's kind of shoegazy in spots, maybe even a little bit psychedelic. Jeff Martin has a deeper baritone voice, which really fits the mood of the music. It's probably the most cryptic and depressing record I have on my list, but I like having a balance of like depressing music with brighter, uplifting music. I don't know if you guys are like that too, but this definitely fits the more depressing category. And I was a pretty lonely college kid, so this record and Sun Kill Moon's Ghosts of the Great Highway were just like in constant rotation for me at that time. Yeah, so I just think their sound was unique and captivating due to the custom 4-string guitars that Jeff Martin played, and also just like his utilization of non-standard tunings, so that's just really cool. So my favorite songs would be all of them. I really like God's Green Earth, Gone, Here to Go, Save, and Endgame, the closer. Yeah, if you haven't heard this, please do give it a spin. So, IDAHO, Year After Year, that's my number 8 pick. Number 9, we have Teenage Fanclub with Grand Prix. This is one of Scotland's finest bands, and sure, I could have gone with Bandwagon-esque back there, but I'm going with this one. So I also adore that album, which is nearly equal to this in my book, but this beats it by just a hair. This is also a top 10 power pop record for me. It puts a smile on my face. So many essential tracks on here: About You, Sparky's Dream, Neil Young, I'll Make It Clear. Yeah, it's so infectious. You will be humming these songs for days. Very Big Star-esque as well. This is what many power pop albums wish they could be. So that's my number 9 pick right there. Finally, my number 10, Massive Attack with Mezzanine. This is probably the first trip hop album I ever heard. I was totally clueless about the genre of trip hop. It pretty much blew my mind when I first heard this. It just has this cool laid back vibe to it. And after I heard it, I was on a mission to explore trip hop further, and I even went down the techno and trance rabbit holes a little bit too. But this still comes out on top as being my favorite trip hop record. If I don't have time to listen to the full record, I definitely listen to the first 4 songs. Those are pure excellence. It's, Angel, Rising Sun, Teardrop, Inertia Creeps. Love Elizabeth Fraser's vocals from Cocteau Twins on Teardrop especially. This album has an amazing flow to it. I've always been so enamored by it. The final 4 songs are also underrated tracks, in my opinion. This is the perfect evening album or perfect anytime album, really. It never gets old, it's timeless. So that's my number 10 pick, you guys. I'm not doing any honorable mentions with this video, but that was just an overview of my top 10 favorite albums of the 90s. Hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to share in the comments which albums you like from my list, or share your own top 10 list. I look forward to hearing from you, and I certainly do appreciate you hanging out, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.